Okay, let's unpack this. There's that feeling, isn't there, when you hear a show you just, absolutely loved,
Yep.
one that felt kind of like home for years,
Yeah.
is coming back after being off the air for, well, a really long time.
Oh, yeah.
You get
Yeah.
that rush of excitement, right? You
Yeah.
want to revisit those characters, those familiar Arlen streets again. But you also know, sort of deep down, that time hasn't just stopped. Things have to be different.
Absolutely. And that mix, the nostalgia, but also the curiosity about how things actually unfolded.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're diving into today. Our mission here is basically to get you up to speed quickly on the return of King of the Hill for its 14th season.
Right. And specifically, we're doing this by really drilling down into just one main source. It's an article that looks closely at the new intro sequence they released and also lays out the official show description. So we're going to pull out the most important bits of info, but only from this one source. Think of it like your shortcut to understanding what this specific piece tells us about Hank, Peggy, Bobby, the whole gang,
Yeah.
and what this new season on Hulu might actually, look like.
That's the plan. We'll kind of guide you through it, piecing together the clues we can find in the description of the new intro and the details from the official summary, synthesizing it all for you. But yeah, building a picture strictly based on what's in this one source, how Arlen and, its most famous family have changed.
I am genuinely excited to dig into this. King of the Hill was just such a unique show, wasn't it? Grounding, funny, insightful. Okay, let's jump right into what this source actually reveals.
All right, so the first, fundamental piece of information the source gives us, it confirms the obvious but, necessary detail. King of the Hill is back, it's returning for its 14th season, and it's going to be on Hulu.
Okay, Hulu. And the source really points out that significant gap, right? Over 15 years since the original run ended back in, 2009?
Yeah, over 15 years, that's a lot of life lived off screen.
It really is.
And the source, it gives us a return date too, August 4th for the new season.
August 4th.
And it'll be a 10-episode season.
10 episodes, got it.
Okay, so that's the concrete stuff.
Yeah.
Shows back, August 4th, 10 episodes, more than 15 years later. Now, let's look at what the article says about this new intro sequence they put out.
Okay, yeah. The source notes the new intro keeps the iconic music, right?
Yeah.
And that time-lapse thing everyone remembers. But it stresses that this new sequence, quote, implies a lot has happened over the last 15 years.
So what kind of things does the article say this intro implies?
Well, the article highlights a few different details you can supposedly spot in the intro that hint at changes. For instance, it mentions visual cues suggesting Bill Dotterive, may have had COVID-19.
Wow, okay. Grounding it in recent history right off the bat with Bill. That feels very Bull somehow.
Right.
What else does the intro description in the source point to? Another implication they pull from the intro description is Dale running for mayor.
Dale Gribble, running for mayor. Of course he is. Can you even imagine his campaign platform? Just pure conspiracy theories, maybe some pocket sand awareness initiatives.
Totally.
Okay. What's the most significant thing, though? The biggest implication the source pulls from that intro description.
This one's pretty big, yeah. And it really underlines the passage of time. The intro description implies, and I'm quoting the article here, someone moving into Hank's home for a few years while he and the family are away.
Wait, someone lived in Hank's house?
That's what the description in the article is just, the intro implies, yeah.
While Hank and Peggy were gone for a few years. Just that one detail from the intro description. Wow, that signals a huge upheaval, a major absence for the main family.
It absolutely does. And this is where their official show description, which the article also quotes, kind of fills in the blanks. It explains maybe why they were away and what they were doing.
Okay, let's hear it. What does the source say the official description reveals about where Hank and Peggy were?
So according to that description in the article, Hank and Peggy were away for years working a propane job in Saudi Arabia to earn their retirement nest egg.
Saudi Arabia, working a propane job for years, all to fund their retirement. Okay, so that connects directly back to the intro implication about them being away. They weren't just like on a long vacation, they were on a specific long-term mission overseas. That definitely sets the stage for their return.
Precisely. And the description frames their comeback like this. It says, Hank and Peggy Hill returned to a changed Arlen, Texas to reconnect with old friends Dale, Boomhauer, and Bill.
Okay.
So that confirms, their significant absence, the fact that Arlen itself has evolved, and that their focus right away is reconnecting with the guys.
Right. So the main adults, Hank and Peggy, they've been overseas working towards retirement, and now they're back. But Arlen's different. But what about Bobby? I mean,
Yeah.
for so many people, the heart of the original show was Hank trying to figure out the world with his son, who was often, bewildering.
Yeah, Bobby's a big question, and the source's description gives us a really clear and frankly huge update on Bobby's life. It states that Bobby, quote, is living his dream as a chef in Dallas and enjoying his 20s with his former classmates Connie, Joseph, and Shane.
Whoa. Hold on. Bobby is in his 20s,
Yep.
an actual adult, and he's not even in Arlen. He's living in Dallas and pursuing a career as a chef.
That's what the description says.
That is quite a leap from, like, prop comedy or whatever his last ambition was.
Yeah.
And he's living with Connie, Joseph, and Shane Washington.
That seems to be the implication, yeah. Living with those former classmates, he's pursuing his passion professionally, living an independent adult life outside Arlen, and specifically sharing that life with friends we last saw as, teenagers? This one detail, I mean, it fundamentally shifts the whole central family dynamic from the original series.
Oh, completely.
Hank and Peggy aren't coming back to parent a teenager under their roof anymore. They're returning basically as empty nesters whose son has built his own separate life somewhere else.
That is a massive, massive change based purely on what this one source is telling us. Okay, so let's just recap quickly what we've learned from this source. Show's back over 15 years later, August 4th, 10 episodes, Hulu.
Right?
We've learned from the description of the intro sequence that things in Arlen have definitely changed. Hints like Bill maybe having had COVID, Dale running for mayor, and that really striking detail about someone possibly living in Hank's house while the family was gone for years.
Yeah, the temporary resident.
And then the official summary clarifies why they were gone. Hank and Peggy spent years in Saudi Arabia working a propane job for retirement money.
Exactly.
And maybe the biggest news, Bobby is now an adult in his 20s, living his dream as a chef in Dallas with Connie, Joseph, and Shane.
That's the picture. Those specific points pulled only from the source material, they paint a pretty vivid picture, don't they? Characters and a town that have, continued to live and evolve over the past decade and a half.
Yeah.
Hank and Peggy made this huge life choice that took them away for years. Bobby grew up, carved out his own path somewhere else. Arlen kept going without them. It provides a really fertile ground for new stories, doesn't it? Stories that reflect where these characters are now instead of just trying to pretend no time has passed at all.
It really does feel like a natural progression based on these details. Maybe a bit dramatic with the Saudi Arabia part, but still, it tracks.
And, thinking about what the source says, Hank and Peggy away for years and that someone lived in their house during that time. It raises kind of a fascinating question for you, the listener, to maybe think about as you look forward to the new season.
Yeah.
Beyond just, catching up with Dale and Bill and Boomhauer and seeing how much Bobby's changed. What kind of potentially awkward or unexpected situations might come up specifically because Hank and Peggy are settling back into a life and maybe even a house that someone else occupied for a while?
Ah, right. Like, whose chair is whose now?
Exactly. What little changes were made? What challenges might that present for their adjustment period, especially after being gone so long and in such a different place like Saudi Arabia?
That's a great point. It's not just about reconnecting with Arlen as a whole, but maybe kind of reclaiming their specific space within it.
Yeah.
Finding their footing again.
Yeah. Something to chew on anyway.
Well, that was a really insightful deep dive, just focusing on what this one source tells us for the return of King of the Hill. Thanks for guiding us through those key details.
Our pleasure. Glad we could unpack it for you.